This is your new single head Flo Master piston filler. We thought we'd make this quick video, show you how to run this machine. There's a couple little specialty items on this machine. So we'll make a video and try to explain how to run it best and this has a changeover procedure too. So first thing we'll do is we'll show you filling. This is right now set up to fill the very small container. And actually, sometimes filling the small ones are trickier than the large ones. And mainly that has to do with priming the system because you're pulling in such a small amount. It takes a while to get it primed. As a matter of fact, in this case, I held this is the filling nozzle. I held a container full of product under the nozzle to get it primed. But I'll show you filling first. As you can see, it's a very small fill. Now I'll put one into the container. This is a container that we're filling, but the camera, you probably won't be able to see the fill line, but I'll show you anyway. Doubtful you can see. It's clear. It's clear, so you really can't see, but it doesn't even want to come out of there. But there it goes. I'll show you another one. Yeah. So it holds the product through capillary. So it fills. It's been very consistent. So a couple things about the way we get that small fill. There is a cylinder within this cylinder. It's a half-inch diameter. I'll take this apart quick and I'll show you. And I'll show you how to change it over, because you can fill with the small cylinder. You can fill about, like in this case, we're filling roughly 3 milliliters. That'll go to just over a ½ ounce at max fill. And then with the big cylinder, you can fill from about 1.5 ounces to about over 16 ounces. So, okay, first I'll show you what to prime this. As mentioned, it pulls in such a small amount that it takes a while to prime the tubes. Even though we kept them on the small side, we wanted to make them not so small that you couldn't utilize them for the large fill. So anyway, what we did, here's your quantity adjustment. And we have this marked roughly for 3 milliliters. You might want to change that depending on, I don't know what your fill level is going to be on that container. So that's kind of that's an arbitrary reference point. But anyway, this here, in order to prime the system for the small fill, crank this out. This is your quantity adjustment. And we crank this out to the max. Now it's important on the small, when you're using a small cylinder, don't go beyond this, because the piston can extend past the front of the cylinder. There's nothing really holding it back. Won't hurt anything, but you'll ruin your prime. It'll just start. It'll bleed out everything you just did to prime it. So we take this to this is all to do with priming the system for using the small cylinder. And now it'll take you'll see it'll fill much more. In fact, it's probably going to overfill this or come close. Okay. Now, there I didn't change the speed. So now that I'm mentioning that, here's the speeds for the fill speed. That's the discharge speed. This is your speed control. If you want to go faster, turn it counterclockwise, looking at the unit. Turn it counterclockwise, it'll go faster. Turn it clockwise, it'll go slower. And this is your discharge one. And now the same is true here. This is your intake speed. Counterclockwise quicker, clockwise slower. It's a needle valve in there. So it's right now it's set for this guy. This is what this machine was really geared to do. So that's where we're set. Now if you were priming it, I want to say, well, I'll show you. I would go faster on this. Let me dump this out so that we don't overfill it. As you see, I cranked that out to go faster. It's filling much faster now. I didn't change the intake speed, but so I'll crank it roughly back to where we were for the small guy. Still probably a little fast. Your discharge speed is mainly regulated by splashing. So if you're splashing, it means you're probably going too fast. So that's about your only limitation there. And the intake speed, typically you don't want to overdo it. You come back smooth and steady, but I'd start slow and move up as you go. Okay, I guess I didn't cover the fundamentals here. This is you have a AC power in here, then your power off and on here. This will run continuous. It helps for priming, and it helps for cleaning out. If I let me dump this and I'll show you. First, let me crank it back down because I'll overflow this. I covered this your quantity adjustment. We'll go back down to the small fill. Dump this out. Now I'll show you the continuous. In this mode, it'll just keep going. Now back to manual, which is the foot pedal operation. Now you could fill continuous if you're fast, and I would probably slow it down. But you could fill in that mode, but typically it's used for priming and for cleaning out. Okay, now this is your air connection. You won't be able to see a whole lot of it. This is a 1/4 inch quick connect here for your air. And then this is a air pull off. You pull this, that'll shut the air off to the machine. And then that's on. Okay, so I'm going to turn the air off because we're going to show you how to change this out. Okay, that pretty much covers the small fill, but I'll just quickly show you how to change over to the larger cylinder and piston, and I'll show you what's going on there. So I'm going to take this filling nozzle out, and I'll take the head off. That's just this quick clamp here. Might get some water here, but yep. So we'll set this aside. Now, as you see, the setting of this, the location of this cylinder on the machine this way is the front of this cylinder is about flush with the front of the machine. As you can see, like if you're looking straight up and down, this is even with the front of the machine. And that's where you want to be. Okay, and then you see this cylinder has adapters. We could even go larger on this, but we can already do 16 plus ounce fill. But I'll show you the way we achieve that small fill. Pull this out. Power's off. It is now. Turn the power off, turn the air off. You don't want anything cycling while your hands are in there. Okay, now as you see, I loosen these cylinder clamps, and then I'll show you this cylinder in a cylinder. Now you want to get something soft for this. You don't want to beat up the front end of that cylinder. And when I take it off, I'll show you what I mean. Just tap it out lightly. Now that's your small quantity cylinder. And here's your piston head. And then what we'll do, I'll set this aside, and I'll take this off, and we'll change it out. That's your cylinder. Here, I'll just put it in here for safekeeping. Now, if you're allowed, it's good if you can lubricate the O-rings up a little bit. In some instances, that's not permitted, and it'll work without it. But if you can, it helps to assemble things, and the O-rings will last longer, but understandable if it's not. Now this piston head goes on here. I'm sure we're going to ship it to you with the small setup, because I think that's what it's going to be doing. Oops, wrong one. That goes there. We'll put him in here. I like to if you can, kind of roll the cylinder rather, onto the piston. Make sure you get that thing started. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't use power to do that. Make sure you get that started manually. Now I'll bring this back in. Oops. These adapters can slide along the cylinder. So, as you're doing this, we're going to locate the cylinder first, straight up and down along the edge, and then I'll center these adapter rings just by eye. I'm kind of centering these within those blocks, and then I like to have these evenly spaced, and you don't have to go too tight on these. Just make sure they're pretty snug. And that's it. Now it's set up for the larger fill. And then the reverse is true to put everything back together this way.